First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Good evening and welcome to WUFT News First at 5. I'm Isabella Leandri.
And I'm Avery, Lotz. Thanks for joining us.
Gunfire erupted at a Tennessee school this morning, killing 3 children and 3 adults. A school shooter took their lives.
In a string of patterns of gun violence on school campuses, one key detail sticks out about this one in particular. The suspect was identified as a 28-year-old female.
It's happened at the Covenant School in Nashville. NBC's Dan Sheneman tells us more about this tragedy.
Monday morning, a school day. Shots fired at Covenant School in Nashville. Inside the private Christian school, teachers tried to protect students.
She said she was hiding in the closet and that there was shooting all over and that they had potentially tried to get into her room.
Police say the assailant entered the school through a side door and began firing.
We now know that there are 3 students who were fatally wounded, as well as 3 adults inside the school.
The shooter fired throughout the school and was on the 2nd floor when confronted by police.
The officers engaged her. She was fatally shot by responding police officers.
Just 14 minutes after the initial call, it was over.
We know that she was armed with at least 2 assault-type rifles and a handgun.
At one point, she was a student at that school, but unsure what year, all of that. But that's what I've been told so far.
Students were guided from the school, while anxious parents waited to be reunited with children. The investigation has just started.
3 people lost their children today. It's hard to imagine.
Something hard to imagine is now reality in Nashville. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
The Florida House has passed a bill that would allow people to carry concealed guns without a permit, but it wouldn't allow them to openly carry firearms. The House passed the measure along party lines on Friday. The legislation is also expected to pass in the Senate before heading to Governor Ron DeSantis, who has expressed his support. He also said he'd sign an open carry into law if the legislature would pass it. The Florida Sheriff's Association has endorsed the permitless carry bill, but has come out against allowing all open carry.
The Florida teen who stabbed his 13-year-old classmate to death has been sentenced to life in prison. Today, 16-year-old Aiden Fucci is an inmate in the Florida prison system. He was 14 when he stabbed Tristan Bailey 114 times in their St. Johns County neighborhood, where her dead body was found hours after her family reported her missing on Mother's Day. He was charged as an adult. Circuit Judge Arlie Smith called the case the most difficult and shocking case that St. Johns County had encountered, and added that the crime was especially troubling because it had no motive. The sentence comes after Fucci pleaded guilty to murder prior to jury selection in February. Fucci faces a minimum of 40 years in prison. However, because he's a minor, his sentence will be up for review after 25 years.
At least 26 people are dead in Mississippi and Alabama after tornadoes ripped through the southeast over the weekend. Search and recovery teams have been on the scene since yesterday, digging through the debris. The tornadoes flattened homes and buildings, displacing hundreds of people. The storms also destroyed entire blocks, ripped a steeple off a church, and toppled a water tower. Radar data indicates the tornado traveled at least 170 miles for over an hour while on the ground. One storm survivor describes the horrors she faced during the storms.
It was like a total nightmare. It was something you'll never forget. If you ever went through it, you will never forget that. You'll never forget that. It was.
Seeing the devastation in those communities in Mississippi is just heartbreaking.
It really is, Avery. Our hearts go out to those affected.
WUFT's Daniella Rudolph joins us now with a look at our local forecast. Daniella, what should we expect this evening?
Thank you, ladies. It is really terrible to see something like that happening in the world weather. But luckily here in Gainesville, we can sigh a breath of relief because for the remainder of the week, we are going to be relatively in the clear, although we do have some severe weather coming later on in the week. So do stay with me to see how you can keep yourself equipped and safe for the remainder of the week. But taking a look at our campus cam right now, conditions are 85 with a relatively clear sky. We do have a chance of precipitation coming tomorrow, but for the remainder of the evening, we are in the clear. Take a look at our temperatures across the board in those mid to high 80s. Look at that at the 90s in the villages, so those temperatures are really nice and really warm for the remainder of the evening. But going into tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, we do have areas of patchy fog that is going to decrease your visibility. So if you are driving for the morning commute, please do keep an eye out on that so that you can stay safe. But back to you, ladies, and stay with us because we have more coming on that severe weather.
Tomorrow, the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners will decide whether to move forward with the acquisition of land near Lake Santa Fe. The Din property stretches between Waldo and Lake Alto. You can see it highlighted in red on this map. The Alachua County Land Conservation Program has been working on acquiring the property for over 15 years because of its key location. If acquired, the property will be preserved for habitat restoration.
Protection of the Lake Santa Fe Din property is a permanent protection. That's the goal and intent of the Alachua County Forever program and of the will of the citizens that formed this program.
The land is eventually expected to provide nature-based public recreational access such as hiking trails and bird watching. The Board of County Commissioners meeting is tomorrow at 11:30 a.m.
Tomorrow, the Alachua County Board of Commissioners will discuss an ordinance that would establish maximum towing rates for Alachua County.
Florida statute requires counties to establish the maximum vehicle tow rate for removal and storage of a wrecked or disabled vehicle. The maximum rates for towing and storage charges are based on the size and weight of a vehicle. Assistant County Manager and Chief of Staff Gina Peebles says an involuntary tow is one where the driver is not able to give their consent.
And what an involuntary tow is I've just been in a car accident, so my vehicle is in the middle of the road, it needs to be moved, or it's in the right of way, and it's maybe abandoned there.
She says since the county didn't have the fees established, it does require a public hearing. Alachua County recently met with all of the tow operators in the area.
They provided a lot of great feedback and input on to what the rates should be. And so basically the consensus of what the tow operators came up with is what's being presented to the board tomorrow for adoption.
Angela Stone, co-owner of Elite Towing, was one of those tow operators. She says Elite Towing doesn't do any non-consent towing, but she added input on what they would like the rates to look like based on inflation of fuel prices, truck costs, and insurance rates rising.
Insurance has more than doubled in the last couple of years. So you're talking about policies that went from $90,000 to $240,000 a year, and so those costs have to be recouped somewhere.
The county does not want to raise rates too much because it would be unaffordable for customers who don't have insurance. To make sure the rates are reasonable, the county benchmarked themselves against 6 or 7 different counties, including Dade and Putnam. Tow operators did share concerns that those counties have not reviewed fees in a very long time. Peebles says she will bring this up at the meeting tomorrow. In Gainesville, Florida, Kennedy Mason, WUFT News.
Thanks, Kennedy. People in Gainesville have about a month left before one of Midtown's most popular bars closes its doors.
WUFT's Julianna Reichenbach has the details about how this nightlife hotspot is spending its final days.
Hey guys, that Instagram post Tuesday certainly brought out a lot of emotions. Some say Grog House was like their childhood of UF, while others say they're simply glad to see it go. But either way, after 27 years, Grog's glory days as an 18-plus bar in Midtown are over. And perhaps one sign had been here all along. Grog House faced trouble in 2021 when city officials found the floor to be unsafe. City Commissioner David Ariola tweeted the floor could collapse onto balls downstairs. Grog shut down for almost 2 months, then returned to normal form. Wednesdays, ladies' night, Gator football game day deals, and more. Something the new freshman class at UF will not experience. But there is still time to beat the clock. If you want to walk up these steps one more time, you've got till May 6th. Reporting for WFT News, I'm Julianna Reichenbach.
A Florida couple has been kidnapped during a trip to the Caribbean.
What their captives are demanding might shock you. That plus weather and sports a little later in the show. Stay with us, you're watching First at 5.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
Relatives of a Florida couple say the two have been kidnapped while traveling in Haiti. Family members say Abigail Toussaint and her husband John Dickens were kidnapped in the Port-au-Prince area on March 18th. The Toussaints were visiting Haiti to see family members, but they never made it to their house. The couple's niece, Christy, says a group ordered them off of a bus. They kept them captive, demanding $6,000 for their release. However, when the family paid the first deposit, the group canceled the deal. Day Storms described the situation as devastating and hopes they are brought home soon.
It's devastating. You kind of feel like angry that it happened, you know, and then like you kind of just feel numb at the same time.
A petition on change.org is encouraging the federal government to help ensure their safe return.
If you're a prospective homeowner, you might want to turn up your volume for this next story. With approval Friday from the Florida House, the Senate approved a $711 million effort to make housing more affordable for working Floridians. And now it's heading to Governor Ron DeSantis' desk. Senate President Kathleen Passamoto said the measure aims to end affordable housing stereotypes and creating options needed by the workforce. She also pointed to continued population growth and the demand for housing. House sponsors support the, quote, innovative concepts in the proposal will allow Floridians to live close to where they work. Among other things, the bill would create tax exemptions for developments that set aside at least 70 units for affordable housing and would speed permits and development orders for affordable housing projects. The state budget for the current year includes $362.7 million for affordable housing.
A company is stepping forward to sweep up the remnants of the collapsed Silicon Valley Bank for a full revamp. First Citizens Bank is taking over SVB's assets, deposits, and loans. Investors are relieved to see a resolution to the saga that kicked off the banking crisis. Shares of First Citizens rose more than 47% this morning. Today, 17 branches are now operating as Silicon Valley Bank, a division of First Citizens Bank. First Citizens representatives say SVB customers should keep using their branch until First Citizens contacts them. It felt like summer out there this afternoon, and it's not even April 1st yet.
So hot. I know, heat and storms always seem to go hand in hand. Daniella, will we see some storms this week?
Exactly, you're correct. So when we have an increase in temperatures and precipitation, there's going to be more available moisture in the atmosphere, and it can lead to an increase in storms and their intensity. Stay with me to see if we're going to be experiencing any storms this coming week here in North Central Florida.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
So of course, on everyone's minds this week is severe weather and the drop and top temperatures coming later on in the week. So let's take a look at what the temperatures are doing right now across North Central Florida. Again, we have those in the mid to high 80s, but getting up to the 90s in some parts. If you love the heat, it's going to be a great evening for you. Taking a look at a little wider view, across the state we have the same range of those 80s to 90s and warmer across the board. Taking a look at our satellite and radar, you can see this nice band of precipitation that's moving through Montgomery and Savannah. It can be reaching us later on in the afternoon tomorrow, so stay with me to see how you're going to be affected. But looking at that future radar for tomorrow, we do have that low pressure system moving across the state with that cold front coming, which is going to be dropping temperatures later on in the week, but it will be rising later on in the week as well. So as we said, we do have those unfortunate, very severe storms and severe weather across the deep south. So we have those tornadoes, those hailstorms and severe thunderstorms. So please do keep up to date with your county's emergency manager and listen to those alerts that you're getting. Speaking a little more locally, we do have some severe weather here in more local areas with damaging winds and isolated tornadoes. It is an isolated risk, it's relatively low, but as we have with every single type of severe weather, it is something that should be taken very seriously. Taking a look at our bus stop outlook, tomorrow morning it's going to be 66 with some areas of dense fog with those isolated thunderstorms coming later on in the afternoon, but it is going to be a warm day. Take a look at our future radar for tomorrow. We do have those areas of precipitation coming in slightly in the morning, but it's going to be getting much heavier throughout the remainder of the day. That you can see coming in around 5 p.m. those heavy areas of precipitation, but it is clearing towards the evening. So just a brief isolated thunder shower, not really anything to stress about, but again, please do keep in mind those severe weather that we're seeing. But let's take a look at our hourly forecast going for tomorrow, starting out at 80, dipping all the way down to 69. So as we've been seeing that severe weather, it's really important to understand the difference between a tornado warning and a tornado watch. So please do keep up to date with those emergency warnings, because this is how we keep ourselves safe. This is a really big way to save lives in severe weather events, especially in tornadoes. Taking a look at our 6-day outlook, there we see that big drop, 75 on Wednesday, but going back up almost in the 90s for the weekend. Stay with us to see more. Back to you, ladies.
Cancer survivors are working together to spread awareness for ovarian cancer.
I went to an event this weekend that highlighted the stories of survivors and the push forward for a better future for patients. Almost 9 years ago, Samantha Brackus was overcome by a crippling cough. A doctor herself, she requested a CAT scan. On Friday the 13th, a life-changing diagnosis followed: stage 4 cancer.
And I said, I know where it's coming from. It's my ovaries.
Now an 8-year ovarian cancer survivor and a Gainesville pediatrician, Brackus has found a support system in the Sandy Rollman Ovarian Cancer Foundation. Last Saturday, Brackus hosted the Sandy Sprint, a 5K to raise funds and awareness for ovarian cancer at her Newberry farm. This year, along with over 100 registrants, 6 survivors joined the walk. Following the run, guests gathered on the farm to watch a dressage performance and hear from survivors, celebrating survival through song, dance, and storytelling. The event culminated with empowerment. 2 survivors joined Brackus in sharing their stories. Elisa Manzelli made the trip from her home in Phoenix to share her story, one of finding joy in loss. Ovarian cancer robbed Manzelli of her fertility at just 29.
My story today, at least, really focuses on overcoming losing my fertility and finding happiness in the everyday little things in life, and redefining what happiness means to me and what my definition of a family looks like.
For those currently in the fight against ovarian cancer, she and Brackus stressed the importance of telling your story and listening to your body.
Every day I'd look at myself in the mirror and I'd see the scar. I'd have to take a daily medication. And I'm like, this is going to be a part of my life forever. So I would just tell people, don't be scared to share your story and get out there.
It's a wonderful story, Avery.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to cover the event and the organization.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
A few weeks ago, the quest for a perfect March Madness bracket began for millions across the United States, but they quickly found out that Edward Scissorhands has a better chance of beating Rock.
This group would have had a special bond forever if we would have got knocked out in the conference tournament and not made the tournament. It's who they are. Like I said before, it's just awesome to see a group of guys that deserve this 100% for it to happen for them.
Gator football will host its pro day on Thursday, and its top draft prospect Anthony Richardson prepares to show off for NFL teams. Projected starter Graham Mertz is just getting his feet wet. The Wisconsin transfer is enjoying the change of scenery.
I love the direction that Coach Napier is taking this, and it's a program, it's a setup that is it's a pro program. You could take program, but if you capitalize the pro, that's how he runs it here. So.
Mertz and the rest of the team at Florida's spring game next month.
Thanks, Shawn. BBC World News is next, and the PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7.
But your Florida news is always on at WUFT.org. Have a nice night.